Hello. Hello. Hi. Hello.
Hello.
I was testing my microphone. I didn't know you could hear me.
You're good.
Thank you. See, luckily people in the front row hear me talking, and they're like, I can't hear you through my other little speaker. My TAs are letting everybody in as it comes in. Yeah, so I have TAs that are zooming in from wherever they're at, and they're the ones that are actually visible. So these are the TAs, the non-masked individuals. Look at all those smiling faces. That makes me so happy. Yeah. Uh-huh. Okay, can do. All right, got it. Okay, so after you log into your BSU Zoom account, then you log into Blackboard, then you join the Zoom. I know. I posted an announcement about this just because I wanted to make sure that you understood sort of the order of operations. Apparently, it is very important and one of the things that helps with the waiting room. So those of you that keep getting stuck in the waiting room, if you log in to your boisestate.zoom.us first, then you don't actually have to go to the waiting room. All the TAs did it. They're also listed as co-hosts. So they were able to move straight into the room. And TAs, thank you so much for taking care of that waiting room for me. As is the case with our new normal here. Here are some pointers, right? Logging into Blackboard, you want to look at the left navigation bar. Joining our Zoom from the Zoom meetings link on the left side navigation bar. Remember to mute your audio and your video. TAs are the only people that should be visible at this time. And if you have any questions or anything else like that, you can pop them into the chat and the TAs will do their best to vet them for importance, address them in the chat as well by responding to you and then calling my attention to anything that is confusing.
I think we already have some stuff like that.
Excellent.
They're asking if you can screen share just so it's easier to see what you're sharing.
Absolument. Absolument. There we go. Now we're all in the know. Okay, keep them coming, right? Let me know what your experience is like so I can understand what I can do to make it better for you. Raise your hand if you are having any technical difficulties at all, and you wouldn't be hearing this if you were. So, okay, perfect. That is not the best way to frame a question in this space. All right, are you guys ready to do some psychology? We've been spending all this time talking about me, talking about the class. Now it's time to get down to our content, right? The major agenda for us. And for some reason, my advancer isn't working. Seating survey. Remember, we need you to complete the seating survey. Two different ways to do that. One way is through the app. The other way is to go ahead and go into your my.boisestate.edu and log in that way. The reason why, I'm sure that you all remember, the reason why we are doing the seating arrangement is to make sure that we can do contact tracing in case anybody comes up symptomatic or sick. We can be sure to inform the people that need to know what's happening. Pretty soon I won't even have to show you that at all. So I think I'd sent out that survey. I'd sent out that survey for several reasons, but early on when I asked you about yourselves and asked you to share something with me. And I think, I don't want you. I think I ran across some stuff that was, I don't know if startling is the right word, but new to me, which is always fun.
Dr. Henderson, a couple people are asking if they should do the seating survey if they're zooming in from home. Right?
If you're zooming in from home, you need to do it and you need to select the remote option. Thank you so much for asking. And you still want to answer all the relevant questions as well. All right. So I had shared a link with you guys to one of my favorite songs from grad school, and I was surfing through your guys' links this weekend, and I came across quite a few. You guys have some pretty curious sense of humor. Lots of SpongeBob fans, which surprises me. I have questions about. But one student sent this in, and I just wanted to put it up there and tell you that I liked it. You know, I mean, not just that I liked it, but that I really, really liked it. It caught me off guard. I appreciate photography, but this was definitely something that showed up in a very different way for me. It made me pause. All right, so we're going to move to housekeeping. Lucas and assorted other TAs zooming in from near and far. As I run through the housekeeping, make sure and let me know if there's any follow-ups or nuances that students need. So what'd you submit yesterday? Well, you should have submitted a pre-write, a choose your own adventure, and a concept check. All those things that were listed as pre-work for today's class. All right. If you have a question about any of those, please go ahead and put them in the chat. And TAs, feel free to pop in and let me know what you're seeing. So Kristen asked, does it matter if we submit those things as write in text or a PDF? You can do either. PDF involves an upload. Write in text is what you would just type in to the space. Either way works. On the Choose Your Own Adventure, when we do the readings and we highlight and ask questions throughout the reading, do you want us to submit those as well? No, you don't need to submit all of those nuances. It's helpful, it's nice for us to see those, but what we're primarily interested in is that bottom portion, which is the post read, which are your primary takeaways. Those are the same on all the variations of the Choose Your Own Adventures for that first round. And we do that, right, just to be consistent. It allows us to grade, but it also lets us know that students are coming to the same point and level in their understanding. If you submitted by 11:59 p.m., it is considered on time. If you submitted by 11:59 p.m., it would not be marked as late. Now, if you submitted at 12 or 12:01, it will be marked as late. The post read does not have to be in paragraphs. You can do the post reads. Submitting those in complete sentences is very important and very helpful. I think that the closer you get it to essay structure or paragraph form, the better. We can provide you some feedback on that. That's also going to empower you and set you up for weekly summaries as well as the unit essays. Weekly summaries, we don't have any length requirements on weekly summaries. One of the things that you'll note is that we try to stay away from length requirements just because I know that some students need a page, some students need a paragraph to say the same content and earn the same grade, providing the same level of critical analysis and depth. So if you submitted the weekly summary from last week, it probably will not give you the option to resubmit given that the due date is already passed. PDF is, but it wasn't, you can submit in a PDF or you could write it in. If you submit pages, Google Doc, any variation on the theme. If you look at our syllabus, it tells you exactly which assignment file types are accepted and will be read by Blackboard. And the reason why you have to submit in those file types is because we use Safe Assign, which proofreads, well, basically screens everything for plagiarism. Is every concept check going to have unlimited submissions? Yeah, Seth, I do that on purpose. I figure if you keep just doing iterations, not only do you get more questions to study from for the final, but you get more familiar with the question types and you'll be able to resubmit. It's not an infinite question bank, so you'll reach a point where you'll have seen every single question that's out there. Your highest grade of the ones that you submit will be recorded. The concept check 2.10 said it was due tomorrow. Maddie, I'm not sure where you're seeing that. Could you provide a little clarification? Is that through the Blackboard system? Because Blackboard is not always the best. Okay. Yeah, Google Docs cannot be opened by Blackboard. So Maddie said, yes, it is. And I've already Oh yeah, so I don't understand why the Blackboard system does it that way. I don't have an answer for that. If you look at our Blackboard course site, what we have set up for you here, I'm going to stop sharing my screen because it's just making me stop sharing my screen so I can change things. Okay, if you look at our Blackboard course site and you go to this week's folder, and you can see our, oh, that's orientation. I hope this isn't overwhelming you. You're seeing things as I see things. You'll see here, right? Prep work for Monday. Typically, these need to be completed Sunday. For the first week, that was for the orientation week. Okay, that was for orientation week. For the first week, they need to be submitted by Monday for full points. Exit ticket needs to be submitted by the end of day of Monday. Pre-work needs to be completed by Tuesday for full points. Choose Your Own Adventure needs to be completed Tuesday for full points. So we've reiterated things here. Another great place to look for this information, I had created a, I don't know how to explain it, but I basically created a, how would I do this class if I was doing this class? Midway through this upper portion of our syllabus right here. I just made a suggestion, right? So for on Mondays, you're in class, you're gonna complete an exit ticket and you're gonna participate in class. On Tuesdays, you're gonna prepare for Wednesday, which means you're gonna complete the Choose Your Own Adventure. Ooh, and I'm gonna add to that the concept check if that's in there as well. And I can add the concept check to this one too. Complete the concept check. On Wednesday, you attend class, you complete the exit ticket, and you participate in class. Thursday, you prepare for Monday, you do the Choose Your Own Adventure, and then Friday, you can prepare for Monday and complete the unit by submitting the unit essay. And I'm also going to put in here, I would put weekly summary. Now, I like weekends. That's why I have everything set up in the week. So this is just the suggested outline for that approach. Okay, any other pressing questions that the TA see that we should draw attention to or address at the class level right now? Feel free to speak up. No?
A couple of people were wondering after they submit a concept check and the due date has passed, that can they keep using it to practice the content, and will those resubmissions be graded?
I would not take it again. I would take it as many times as you want up until the due time, just because that's going to complicate things in the grade book. You can, however, loop back in and for yourself, go into your grade book and look at your submissions so you can look at those questions again. I would definitely do that, especially when it comes to studying. Good question. Thank you, Hannah. Okay. Grading update for the orientation. Pre-write has been graded, the weekly summary has been graded, and we are currently grading the Choose Your Own Adventures, and we will be wrapping those up pretty quickly. On the weekly summary, I graded all of those. So if you have any questions, please feel free to bounce those back to me. I did my best to provide you with feedback, orient you. If you had scored averaged, I provide suggestions for scoring in the superior or distinguished area. Also had some feedback, just incidental supportive content, as well as some nuanced specifics where necessary. There was nowhere for me to cough there. Okay. Be sure to check out your rubrics. Go into your grade book and you'll click on your assessment. Sometimes you'll see a little conversational bubble, and that will tell you that you have some feedback in there. And that feedback, of course, is going to be really important because that's going to be giving you some specifics and some insight on how that assessment was determined. The other thing that you want to focus on is where you're scoring in those columns. You want to be looking to the right. If you want to be improving, you want to be looking to the right. So if you scored average in a column, look to the right. Look at the superior description for accuracy or the superior description for integration or grammar, so you can see the skill sets that you need to bolster or maybe some of the additional work you need to put in to move above and beyond that average score. All right, I think we answered questions as we went through. If there's anything the TAs have been seeing on the conversational board that would be helpful, we'll just keep trucking. We're going to do some discussions today via Zoom. Before we get there, I thought it might be good for you guys to see how last fall broke down as far as grades. You know, you see these descriptions of me being a really difficult grader. I thought it might be helpful for you to see how things actually played out. And I'm going to go ahead and open up the chat when it comes back. I'm going to go ahead and open up the chat. And so what I would like for you to do is I had 243 students last fall. Is I would like for you in the chat, just throw in a number, right? If you know that we had about 53 A's, do you think the B's were higher or lower? Go ahead and just put in the chat, high or low. Right? Of course it was higher. Of course it was higher. All right. How about C's? Do you think there were more C's than there were B's? Or do you think there were fewer C's than B's? Higher, lower, 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 higher? Actually lower. And for those of you on the screen right here that you can't see it, I'll move the chat out of the way. Yeah, there were fewer C's. All right, now the D's. God bless that one. What do you guys think? Higher D's, highers, lowers, lowers? Higher? Oof, it's gonna surprise you. Boom. All right. This is how the class is patterning out. Now, if you were to add everything up, you can see that we were shy of 100 students having B's. Okay, this is a 240 person class. If they're about 100 person, super low F, super low F. Wow, wow, bless again. I have no idea what so Dutch means, but that's okay. Watch F's, they'll be way up. All right, Elena, let's see. Is that way up? I mean, statistically speaking, yeah? So let me tell you the story about these Fs. 90% of those Fs were assigned to students who stopped working. Okay? These were the students that stopped showing up. These were the students that stopped submitting work. These were the students that did not keep working. Right? Now, if I were to actually remove the people that stopped working, you would see that we had a total of maybe 10 Fs that were actually earned. And that means these students worked and they submitted things regularly. They just were not grasping the content. No, those people did not drop the class. A D or a C is passing depending upon your major. If you're a nursing major, a D is not passing. If you are, there are some majors that consider D's passing depending upon what they are as far as your core classes go, but C is normally considered passing. So, right, now let's look at how hard of a grader I actually am. Right, a really hard grader, somebody that made it very difficult for you to earn a positive grade, would not have what we call a positively skewed distribution. Okay, that positively skewed distribution means that the higher scores were loaded on the front end of the distribution. So, lesson from this, yes, you can get an A in this class. Yes, you can get a B in this class. Yes, you can pass this class. And the most important lesson is don't stop working. If I could just ask you to do one thing, it would be show up no matter what for as long as you can. All right. So here we go. Finally, psychological science. Right? We start off talking about the history of psychological science and research design. Okay, two fundamental pieces of our success. This is why we are a science. One of the first things I had you guys write out about is psychology a science? That's kind of a challenging question. Most of us, when we think about science, we're really thinking about these really concrete things like gravity, like the quality of rocks, like the positioning of stars, like the reactions in chemistry. Psychology is a science because we follow the scientific method. Okay, but here's one of the most fascinating things about this science is that it evolves as culture evolves. A few things just right off the top of my head that I can share with you. We did not have the scientific study of positive psychology until about 20 years ago. And now that's how most of you understand psychology. That's how most of you have come to think about self-help, to think about self-care, to think about the ways that we take care of ourselves and the way that we serve others. That is positive psychology. Another just random thing that shows you that psychology is related to our culture. Homosexuality was listed in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual as a disorder until 1974. Okay? It's no longer listed in our manual as a disease or a disorder. What has most recently been added is obesity and eating disorders associated with those individuals that compulsively consume, obviously without binging and purging. Okay? Because we've had bulimia in that Diagnostic and Statistical Manual for a long period of time. There are so many things that we are looking at. And I'll tell you guys right now, COVID is ripe with social data, ripe with psychology, ripe with so many things that we're going to have to learn and re-understand and reimagine about how we interact and engage in a culture. So we're going to talk about the history and the science. In all of our contexts, right, even throughout Blackboard, we list out these learning objectives. So today, we're going to spend some time on history. You're going to get to learn about the founding fellows. I used to call them the old white dudes lecture, and for woke reasons, I don't think that that's appropriate anymore. We can talk about how white males were privileged class and were the only people allowed pen and paper and allowed to publish and allowed to speak on scientific matters for a very extended period of time, and we still encounter limits today. So now we call them the founding fellows instead of just the old white dudes. We're also going to talk about research, articulating the difference between various research methodologies. You guys are going to prepare for that conversation on Wednesday. And then positive psychology, right? What makes positive psychology a thing? Okay, you guys are going to get to explore that through your content that you're working on preparing for this week. So the first thing we're going to do today is I want you guys to go ahead and break out. And I want you to, I'm going to put the skills up on our, in our Zoom chat really quick. I'll go ahead and post these there so you guys know that your talking points throughout the chat. So there are our skills statements, and I'll leave those up. But I want you to pick one in your group that you end up in and talk about how, boy, it's nice to see you, Hannah. Where are my breakout rooms? Huh. I want you guys to talk about those skills. Maybe ask yourselves and talk a little bit about where you might already be seeing those. Okay, TAs, do any of you see the breakout rooms?
I don't see that option.
I don't see it either. Okay, if there's anybody in OIT that can hear me right now and can come forward and help me figure out why my breakout rooms don't exist here. Yes, I know I can't do a breakout room with more than 50 people. So I'm going to break out into 50 different groups of 3 to 5 people, or 4 to 5 people. Maybe it's not going to let me do a breakout at all with 204 participants. That's messed up. That is not going to work for me, folks. I know it let me do it last week, Erin. Should I take off my shoe and throw it at the screen? Do you think that would be effective? Yes. Grace says yes. Throw the shoe at the screen. Okay. Maddie says yes. All right. Shoe is being removed.
Dr. Do you want to try making me co-host? I think I might be able to figure it out.
Well, I would be most grateful if you could. Okay. Luke, it's not even showing me you to allow you to become my host.
If you switch to gallery view, it might help to
So
the 3 dots on my face.
Yeah, so it's not allowing me to touch the 3 dots on your face. And when I click on you, it's not allowing me to sign you as co-host.
Are you the host?
Savannah's the host.
Savannah's the host. Savannah,
That's
will you Will you give me back hosting? That's why. Savannah, click on my screen, the dots that you see up in the corner, and assign me host. Pass me the lead. I want to be clear.
Did that work?
Did you get it? I am now the host. Thank you, sweet mother. Mother, thank you. Okay. All right. No, I do not want to do it manually. All right, go talk about skills. You guys want to talk about which ones, right, you have already seen or that you anticipate. Go ahead and click into your room. I'll give you guys a few minutes and then I'll let you know when you have a minute to wrap it up. So go ahead and join your rooms. TAs, I've dispersed you guys throughout there as well. Excellent, excellent, excellent. All right, good job. Boy, that was funny. One of my TAs on the, no, he's on the good list. So are you, Nathan. All right, you guys are popping back. Welcome back. Yeah, Lauren, Zoom really is so complicated for no reason. I just don't think that they trust how smart we are. Or maybe we overcomplicate things. I don't know. Okay, TAs, would you guys report out from your groups and just share, how about if we have Elizabeth and Delaney speak to something that you heard in the groups that you were in?
So we mainly talked about the question of what the impact of the science of psychology has had on just like the way that we look at the world now. And some of my students were saying it's just really beneficial to be able to understand how different behavior outcomes come to be, and a lot with how mental disabilities are the way that they are and different coping strategies dealing with that.
Did any of the people in your group, or did you get the sense in talking about this understanding that there is like this full range of the human, capacity, and that our science helps us to understand that? Did you hear, was there any language around this science helps us not only understand it better, but accept more? Did you hear any of that?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. All right. Okay, good to hear. All right, Elizabeth, anything that you can share from your group? Thank you, Delaney.
Actually, we had a lot of technical difficulties in our group, so I couldn't hear anything.
Okay, all right. It wouldn't let me unmute myself. Boy, these are some great hurdles. All right, so I think that some of this is going to come with practice. Elizabeth, do you have any thoughts on what the technical issue was for you and not being able to hear anybody?
I think it was the Wi-Fi that was just in the stadium or the extramural arena. It was just cutting out a lot.
Oh, it was cutting out, but you were able to were you able to see them?
Yeah, I could see them. I just
Okay. Okay, good to know. Good to know.
I'm aware that if people are muted by like hosts or co-hosts, sometimes it won't let them unmute themselves later on. So like when you come in, it's important like you actually like mute yourselves so that we don't do it and then like lock you down for the rest of the Zoom.
Yeah, no, we have it set up so you come in muted, but we don't retain that control. Like I could unmute you, right? So, oh look, I can ask Aaliyah and Aaron to unmute. Oh, I've never seen that before. Are there any there where I can just unmute them? Yeah, no, I think I can only ask your opinion on that one. Okay, well, more fun with the science of psychology. So one of the reasons why we listed out these skills, especially in this content, is we really want to help you understand what does this science mean outside of sitting in this auditorium, outside of a final, outside of a choose your own adventure. What does it mean to actually do this? And I'm really blessed and fortunate in that when I get to teach psychology, I'm teaching you something that you're already intrinsically motivated to learn, because you want to know more about yourself and you want to know more about people. And so that's what makes teaching this content so easy. But as I've mentioned in the past, that's also what makes this kind of hard, is because I have to work with you so you can get over what it is that you think you know about psychology and the actual science. So much of our understanding of how other people do or why other people do what they do is born from our own personal experience. So today we're going to talk about the history of psychological science. We'll get to and address any questions. And we're also dealing with the history of psychological science. So here are a few things. The American Psychological Association suggests that we highlight a few parameters that psychology really works to focus on operating in. And that first one is diversity. We want to speak to phenomenon, that means human behavior, mental process, across all variations of humanity. So anybody want to guess how poorly of a job we've done of that? Do you think we've done a good job or a bad job? Give me a thumbs up if you think we've done a good job. In real life, give me a thumbs up. Have we done a good job? Have we done a bad job? Show me if we've done a bad job. I can see you guys were all waiting for the thumbs down. I'm going to go ahead and pop over here. Would somebody bravely, not a TA, unmute themselves and put yourself out there and share with us quickly what you think we haven't done well? And if you have a thought why you think we haven't done it well. Anybody want to share? Should I ask somebody to unmute?
I unmuted.
Oh, beautiful. Go for it.
I think like this is just a generic example, but
okay,
like women have been discriminated in terms of like mental health with the whole hysteria and all those kinds of things. And there's women across the world. So if we're doing that in like minority groups of people, like humans, if you're male or female, then we obviously have done it with like minority groups and other people.
Yeah, absolutely, right? I mean, when we differentiate or we ignore a gender, we're automatically cutting out 50% of the population, independent of ethnicity, race, and resources. So you're right. I mean, that's one of our biggest cuts. What she's mentioning is this idea of hysteria. The concept of hysteria first showed up back in Greek and Roman times, where they believed women's uteruses would detach and they would float throughout their body, causing them to be emotionally discombobulated and hysterical and cry a lot. Hence the name hysterectomy, right? I mean, that represents your uterus. And, you know, culturally, women have been assigned the majority of that. Women are twice as likely to be diagnosed with a mental health issue, but part of that for us is culturally, women are also more likely to seek help, right? They're more likely to present with symptoms and want to have some solution for those symptoms. All right, does anybody else bravely just want to just unmute yourself and yeet yourself into the unknown of the arena and put it out there?
Well,
Awesome.
I believe that there are different times where we have, when it comes to ethnicities, or definitely like different races, like ever since like we have colonized the America or the North America, we have been struggling with Native Americans and forcing them through things such as the Trail of Tears and putting them in decreasing their lands despite their cultures, and not to mention the social injustice that has been brought up due to social media about Black Lives Matters, and how that has radically changed the views of modern day society.
Absolutely, right? And just the focus and the shift on Indigenous peoples and the struggle that they are encountering right now. One of the points that I want to make on why this diversity is so important is because we want to speak to the full human experience. Now, I'm going to be straight up with you guys. Here are our limitations. One, the majority of the research that we're going to talk about in this class has been done in America. Okay, so we're not going to get a worldwide perspective in here. Two, the American Psychiatric Association is a bunch of old white dudes here in America. There is another diagnostic manual that's used internationally that takes into consideration cultural variations, different traditions, lots of other things. So when we think about diversity, we are a work in progress. We are definitely a work in progress. The other thing you guys will experience yourselves that we'll start talking about probably on Wednesday is research. The majority of research is conducted on college students. Do you think college students represent the full range of the human experience? They don't. And I know you know that because you know plenty of people who aren't here that represent the human experience. So diversity is something that we are definitely working on. We're working on reaching as many people as possible. The next piece that I want to speak to, thank you for that, Allison, is ethics. Do right, do no harm, and be true. Now, because this is a science that is informed by culture, we are influenced by culture. I've already shared with you guys 3 different examples today on how our diagnostic and statistical manual and our science has evolved just in this short period of time. The age group that the developmental span that the majority of you are in right now is what we call emerging adulthood. And that wasn't even a thing until the year 2000. Because college wasn't the given. College wasn't something that everybody assumed to be happening all the time until about the year, like the late 90s, where it was really clear that because of college, we're having this sort of extended adolescence, but we really couldn't call it an adolescence because legally you were an adult. And so now we have this emerging adult piece. But when it comes to ethics, we've done a lot of messed up stuff. We've done a lot of stuff that allowed us to take advantage of disadvantaged people. We've done a lot of stuff that didn't account for possible and future ramifications. Today, this is the reason why we have an internal review board, an institutional review board, which requires that all experiments that wish to be published has to go through a review process to ensure that we are not doing any harm and we are behaving as ethically as possible. Now, a continuum, I think this is one of my favorite things, and it could be just because I'm a developmental psychologist, but when we look at human behavior, there's no normal. There's no normal. When we say, normally kids will be, have at least 50 words by the time that they're 12 months old. That sucks, right? Because that's not really right. Because some kids, when they're 9 months old, have 50 words. Some kids don't get 50 words until they're 18 months. And what do you think happens to that parent who has a 12-month-old who doesn't have 50 words? They start to freak out. They start to freak out. They start to think something's wrong with their kid. And then they start to do all of these interventions. Well, they just have a slightly different developmental trajectory. We don't worry about the kids that start earlier, right? Because, oh, well, they're savants, right? They're geniuses. We give them all different labels. But in actuality, our development, our behavior is all in a continuum. There's no black or white in our science. There's no good or evil. There's no right or wrong. So looking at these three things alone, diversity, ethics, and continuum, these are the things that we have to focus on as a science, and that we work to conduct good studies to ensure that we maintain this. The next one is application, and I think this is the best one, especially in this class, and one of the things that we really focus on, and you've already demonstrated, right? What does the science mean in your life? What does the science have to do with you? What is the science? How does it serve you? What can it do for you? What does it mean? How can you use it? All of the above, focusing on applications. It used to be the case that we did a lot of studies where they were just sort of theoretical investigations. We weren't really worried about what they meant or how we could actually use them. Today, we know that time and people are precious, and anytime we're collecting data, we want to make sure that there's something we're actually going to be able to do it to leverage your life, to make your life better, to improve things for you, to help you become a better person, to maybe change your environment so you can excel. And maybe even help you understand and provide intervention and care for other people. All right, those are our major threads throughout the science that we work to focus on. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put up here, hopefully we'll navigate some technical issues. I have checked, I have not muted anybody. So this will be your additional opportunity to practice unmuting when you pop into your breakout rooms. We're going to talk about the founding fellows. After having worked on your own to identify who's who, you're going to work in a group. It's not enough to just know who did what, but I want you to be able to discuss what they did and what their lasting impact was. So on this next slide, I'm going to show you, these are our founding fellows. These are the ones we're going to focus on. There's one that's not pictured here, and that's Gestalt psychology. So those are our founding fellows, and here are the things that they did. These are sort of their primary claims to fame. Okay, their primary claims to fame. And so I'm just going to give you a minute, and what I want you to do is I want you to just try to match things up here for yourself. You can go ahead and make note of this somewhere, do whatever works for you to sort of log and identify how these things line up. Now, while I didn't make it part of this task to identify the picture with the person with the thing that they did, that's also fun as well. Now, I'm going to leave this slide up. I will, if you can, go ahead and screen capture this, just to create a little picture of it for you so you can reference it while you talk in your breakout groups. Unfortunately, there's no way for me to control the screen that you see in your breakout group because you just become a conglomerate in and of yourself. I am going to send you folks out and into another breakout room. See how many of these you can get lined up in the 5 minutes that I give you, okay? It's okay if you have technical difficulties. When we come back, we're gonna walk through all of them together, but see what you guys can learn from each other. Do yourself a favor. Don't search the web, right? Our task in these breakout rooms isn't just to get things right, but to begin to practice with our brain, pulling that information out of long-term memory. You having read the chapters, you've already seen these people, you've read about them. Now what you do is you get to practice. So it's not about getting the right answer, it's about working towards a greater understanding. All right, I'll give you a minute's notice when you head out. TAs, are you all still in here together? That fascinates me. Nope, we still have some people who are still in here. Okay. Everybody should be joining a room. Now, TAs, since you're listed as code hosts, you can bebop around and join other rooms. So if that's something you're inclined to do, open up the breakout rooms. Do you have that capability, Delaney, to join a breakout room as a co-host?
Nothing is showing up at the bottom.
Okay. All right. Okay. Huh? Did you screen capture it? Okay. No, that's okay. I just had to do other things on the screen, so I had to hide it, but I can put it back up for you. Okay. Doing good? Okay. Hey, Delaney, will you do me a favor and just say something into your microphone? Take yourself off mute really quick. Who do I have in here? Oh, Delaney's not even in here. Austin, would you take yourself off of mute and just say something? We're checking the audio at the front.
Yep. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you very much. You can go ahead and put yourself back on mute, Austin.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll have to figure out what that professional doing because I have one that goes, it's so quiet, can you turn it up? And I'm like, what do you mean turn it up? And then whenever I started realizing what he was doing, he was having the students inside here ask questions through here. And he was like, can you turn it up just a little bit? And I'm like, I wasn't sure what you were talking about.
Well, wouldn't you just do that right here?
Well, no, because
Oh, okay.
the audio that's feeding into all the equipment.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm hearing them loud and clear.
So that's where there's something I got to figure out.
Okay.
Zoom comes out of here.
Yeah.
So I think it's a setting within Zoom.
Okay.
But
All right. All right. Thank you. Thank you very much, Nathan, for everything always. All right. All right. I got a lot of you coming back in. Hallelujah. Delaney, can you hear me singing to your sister? Okay. Thank you very much. Hannah's got the red lips. Red lips today, Hannah. Looking cute. Love the haircut.
Thanks.
I'm getting high and tight over here. I'll tell you, I have been watching videos of people getting their hair dyed rainbow colors. I think that might be happening.
I was actually just thinking about getting like some overtone color or something. It seems like it'd be so easy right now.
Yeah, awesome. All right, hold on a second. Yeah. All right. Can you guys see my Zoom control panel? Delaney, can you see my Zoom control panel on the screen share? No? Okay. They can't see the Zoom control panel on the screen share. On the screen share, so all the students that aren't here, the ones that were having issues? Yeah. Okay. So now that we're all back, we wanted to point out that if you go to your mute, one of the reasons why you might not be hearing or being heard is maybe one of these settings in here might not be set up correctly. So the next time you guys run into a Zoom issue where you're not hearing others or being heard, check your speaker and check your microphone. Is that good? Thank you, Jerry. Okay. All right. I'm going to go ahead and close out those breakout rooms. So here we go. Oh, I'm going to open up the chat because here's what I want to know. I want to know, I dyed my hair lavender once and it was fun. Oh, I've done mine turquoise before, but I have a hard time doing that in front of like when class is in session. Okay. All right. I digress. All right. Number one, everybody just put into the chat and send it out. What do you think number one? What is number one known for? E's. I got E's and D's. Lots of E's, some D's. Okay. So number one is Barius Frederick, okay, also known as B.F. Skinner. He is a behaviorist that focused on reinforcement. He primarily used pigeons and cats, and he would develop these really elaborate boxes. And in these boxes, he would just watch these primal instinct-based animals and watch them to learn how they learned, basically. Like, what is it that got that mouse to go up to the lever, to press the lever, to drop the food? He really believed in what we call Thorndike's law of effect, which meant that every single behavior had a a reinforcing or a punishing response. And so he really focused on controlling environments to get like mice, rats, and pigeons and cats to do these really intricate tasks. But he's the reason why we talk today a lot about positive reinforcement when we talk about working with kids. Like, how are you going to get kids to do what you need them to do? You give them something that encourages their behavior. And we'll talk more about the nuances of this type of behaviorism known as operant conditioning when we get into our learning content. All right, how about 2, Darwin? What did Darwin do? Give me the letter. Yeah, all right, H, right? He wouldn't have considered himself an evolutionary psychologist just because he was so much before psychology's time. He wouldn't have recognized himself as a psychologist, but we consider him an evolutionary psychologist because he worked to explain these adaptations in these animals contingent upon their environment. And the adaptations really focused on those things that would ensure their survival. Evolutionary psychology is one of the sexy psychologies right now. We've really kind of returned to evolutionary psychology to explain a lot of human behavior and mental processes. We've looked to how does this behavior serve you and ensure your survival later on. We'll talk not too much about evolutionary psychology, but we'll see it pop up quite a bit throughout motivation. All right. Oh, by the way, this is Darwin. That guy. Oh, not that guy. The center bottom one. How about W. James? William James. C. Studied the functions of the mind. Okay. Awesome. Awesome. Yes, William James is C. Okay. He studied the functions of the mind. He wanted to understand why things were the way that they were. So one of the things that William James would do is he would place an object in front of one of his participants. And he would say, describe this to me. Okay, and he would really rely on your sensory experience of things. And so he tried to figure out how things were used. He really believed in what we call the stream of consciousness, which is this sort of free construction of understanding and self from our mental constructions. Okay, he believed in the stream of consciousness, which meant that basically anything that you were thinking was real or based upon your reality. All right, how about John Watson? Give us John Watson. What do you think? What letter's John Watson? Yeah, tortured a little boy to support behaviorism. Yes, I like to refer to John Watson. Does anybody know how I like to refer to John Watson? If you do, put it in the chat. I refer to John Watson, he's D for a reason, as the devil, right? I make the association. In the clinical trials mask, which I'll show you guys, is, thank you for that, Brendan. He is a bad dude, but one of the tools that he used to scare little Albert was he put on a devil's mask. So I call John Watson the devil. He's a pretty trippy dude, and we'll get into him also when we talk about learning, but he's one of the reasons why we have classical conditioning, why we understand how advertising works today. As much as we don't like John Watson, and he did very unethical things when we think about that thread, he still contributed quite a bit. John Watson is this suave dude up here in the upper left-hand corner. Upper left-hand corner, he's got the part that's almost down the middle. He's got the spectacles. He's got a little bow tie. Get his hair did. Blow dry his nails. All right. How about Abraham Maslow? Abraham Maslow. Go ahead and give me whichever letter you think Abraham Maslow contributed to our science. B. Yes, humanism, right? Humanistic psychology. He really believed people are good. He's the one right next to John Watson. He reminds me of a Muppet. I just think he's adorable and very sweet. He was actually probably the youngest of the psychologists that we're talking about, but he really believed that we needed to look at people as good and people that wanted to do good. He really believed in person empowerment. His research informed a lot of motivational theory. Of course, we'll talk about him when we get to Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but his theory and the people that he worked with also really informed personality and therapy. Okay, so we'll talk some more about humanism. He does look like such a nice guy, sweet, sweet fellow. Who knows? Who knows? All right, what about Gestalt psychology? Go ahead and give me a letter for that one. F, yes, a group of psychologists that look at the whole. We will, Gestalt psychology is fascinating. So what we had is we had William James, we had Wilhelm Wundt, we had all of these psychologists that were really interested in teasing apart all of these nuanced aspects of human behavior. And Gestalt psychologists came along and said, okay, now wait a minute here. There's more to this, right? If we pick apart everything, right, and we just look at those parts, we're really missing the whole. We're missing the whole thing. And so that's why Gestalt psychologists say that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts, which means that understanding something in its entirety carries different meaning, weight, and nuance than if we look at the little bits and pieces associated with it. All right, how about Freud? Freud is this grumpy looking dude up here in the top right corner, right? He was our first clinical psychologist, and I guarantee the majority of you have some reference associated with Freud. He's the most popular psychologist used throughout movies and media. Freud was an equally bad dude, addicted to cocaine. He would sleep with his patients, was very incredibly narcissistic. He did believe in recreational cocaine use. In fact, we do believe that that's probably one of the things that killed him, in addition to his constant cigarette smoking. He looks like the exact opposite of Maslow. Well, I didn't do the guy any favors. I did put up the grumpiest looking picture there was of him. So there's my bias right there. But ironically, right, remember, if I were to trace my theoretical lineage all the way back to these, you know, founding fellows, Freud would be my dude, which is kind of hard for me, but it's the truth. It's the truth. All right, Wilhelm Wundt, it's the only one that we have left. It's A. William Wundt is A. He's the father of psychology. He ran our very first psychological lab. And in years previous, I would normally demonstrate this on a TA, but one of the things that William Wundt did, and for those of you that are zooming in and unable to see this live and in person, I'm placing my finger in 2 points on my back. And so William Wundt's first experiment was like this. He would have participants, they would use an equally spaced 2-pointed entity, and they would place it on the participant's back, and they would have to guess about how far apart they were. And then they would put their hand behind their back, and they would place 2 points on the hand, and the individual would have to guess where those 2 points were. Well, what William Wundt learned in this very first experiment, in the first psychological lab, is that there were more sensory neurons in the hand than there were in the back. So he, right, where William James studied the functions of the mind, right, Wilhelm Wundt was focused on the structures. He's the person that helped us understand the sensory motor cortex in our brain and how we have the homunculus, right? This, if we were to distribute all of our neurons proportionally, we would have huge sensory systems, huge hands and feet, because we have more touch receptors in our hands than we do our back. And, right, this is early science, and that simple question, right, highlighted what we study today in neuroscience. So while these founding fellows, right, they're just a bunch of old white dudes, they started our science and created the opportunity for us to really look at things in a critical and evaluative way. And that's one of the ways that we became an official science, if you will. Now, we are working on being mindful to be out of here. There's a QR code up here. I would much appreciate it if you would grab your device and go ahead and scan that. There is a survey that the tech people have asked us to have you guys complete regarding your Wi-Fi access. I know that we had some new technological issues with settings on Zoom and being able to hear people, and just to double checking those settings. Now that we know where those are at, we'll get to experiment a little bit next week, or pardon me, on Wednesday. And in regards to this class, tonight you have an exit ticket that you need to finish and submit for this class, and you will also have prep work set up for Wednesday. Prep work set up for Wednesday. Okay, if there are any questions, I'm just going to stand here at the chat, and I will bebop in here. I got to shrink that back down so you guys can use the QR code. Oh, excellent. I'm glad the TAs mentioned something. The TAs hours are now listed on our Blackboard course site. If you go into the syllabus schedule link, all the way down at the bottom, you'll see the listing of TAs hours. We're still updating that with links, meeting links. Obviously, we're just going to be doing things via Zoom this semester. Wednesday's prep work for the Choose Your Own Adventure, we're wanting to use the videos as examples. I just did mine on a doc. That's totally fine. We want you to mix up the medium as far as how do you select the remote option? Shaylin, I don't know if they put a remote option on there. You might want to make note of it. Obviously, maybe since you're remote, you don't fill out the survey at all. Sorry about that, Shaylin. I didn't think ahead. You can scan the code by opening up the picture function on your phone, and then all you do is hold that up, or if you have a QR reader app, you just hold that up and put this QR code somewhere on that camera screen, and it'll automatically send you to a web page. My camera phone doesn't do that. Don't worry about it, Finn. This isn't for points. This is something for us to give them feedback. Or snaps. Oh yeah, you could use Snapchat. It's all fun and James until the functionalists take over. Oh my God. You guys are wonderful, absolutely wonderful. I appreciate your personalities. Okay, when you're ready, go ahead and pack up, and we're going to head out this way, and then I will happily and joyfully see you and celebrate being together again on Wednesday. Thank you all so much for your patience. You are being absolutely awesome. Let me know if you have any questions. I'm really good via email. Thank you, TAs. I'll see you guys Wednesday morning. I love the lips, Hannah. They are just gorgeous. And I'm not a lipstick person, but I'll tell you, they are a statement piece. Talon, how are you doing today, kind fellow? Good thumbs? Yes, thumbs. I feel like this is such a weird, like a black screen behind me. All right. Take care, everybody.